Welcome to Nightlight. Step away from the mainstream and gather around as we enlighten the world and our realities and travel this cosmic journey we call life. Join us as we share with you and provide that beacon that can guide us all to a better way. Explore with us as we examine a metaphysical montage of spiritual insights, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between. This is a time of awakening, of sharing and evolving, of spreading our wings and soaring on the cosmic breath of creation. Come and join with other light-minded spirits as we weave our lights together to seek understanding, enlightenment, and with a little luck, some wisdom. This is Nightlight, a reminder that you are never alone.
Welcome, everybody. Glad you could join me on Nightlight. It's still daylight here, but it is Nightlight radio for sure. I'm really excited about the book we're going to be talking about today. The title is The Physics of Miraculous Healing, How Emotions, Mind, and Spirit Enable Unlimited Self-Healing. And the author, Joseph Selbie, has been with me 3 or 4 times before. He is known for creating bridges and understanding between the modern experience-based discoveries of science and timeless experience-based discoveries of the mystics. He's also the author of The Physics of God, A Unification of Science and Religion, Break Through the Limits of the Brain, Neuroscience Support for Spiritual Experience, and the Yugas, a factual look at India's tradition of cyclical history, all of which we've already talked about. So if you enjoy today's show, and I'm sure you will, because I know I'm going to, you can go back in at YouTube and go back and find the other interviews on his other books, because they're all there and they are wonderful books. I especially loved the Yugas, and I especially loved this book as well, because it did sort of back me up in my philosophical spiritual modality as to how I believe things work, and so it was very exciting to see somebody scientifically put my philosophy out there and justify it spiritually, scientifically, which was really, really cool. So, Joseph, welcome to the show again.
Thanks for having me again.
Your work is always a thrill to get into, because it does dip into areas that I have often wondered at and not had any material that I could reach to and say, see, here's how you explain this. This is really kind of neat and exciting. And I know that modern science, we're talking miraculous healings here. Modern science just says it's a fluke, or I don't know why it happened, but it's not normal, or things like that. But the reality is miraculous healing is probably a lot more normal than scientific healing, as far as I'm concerned, because first of all, it doesn't use drugs. And second of all, it allows you to heal yourself in a way that's more appropriate for you to be healed than artificially stimulating places and killing bacteria and stuff like that, when your own system can do the work.
Yeah, and what I like to say is, if you can appreciate how miraculous healing can occur, you can appreciate how any kind of healing does occur. It's, modern medicine works with people according to a model which is very biochemical, biomechanical view of how the body works. But most doctors will tell you that people heal when it's unlooked for. People heal, they will attribute it to the amazing miracle of life. You can almost hear them use the capital L, life.
Yeah.
But they don't know why. Most doctors are happy when their patients recover. But unfortunately, the model that we have and the doctors have, and it's the only thing that doctors have, unfortunately, doesn't encourage, doesn't emphasize the deeper level of healing that all of us are capable of bringing into our health and bringing into healing from disease. So while modern medicine is certainly happy to see people get better, they're not necessarily giving us the deepest picture of health and healing. And to get that, and from a scientific point of view, we need to go beyond biomechanics and biochemistry and get into modern energy physics.
Well, to me, it's not a miracle. To me, it's natural that the body will heal itself if appropriately prepared for something. And so to me, it's sort of like the miracle is that science heals us every now and then.
Well, I think to heal it all is miraculous because it's basically coming from within us in a way that modern medicine can't explain. But by the same token, as you already said it's really not a miracle because it's always happening. It is the reason why we heal it all, whether it's modern medicine claiming credit for it or not. There is this constant internal intelligent power of healing that happens within us, regardless of how we think about it.
Yeah, I like the fact that Einstein, every now and then when he was faced with something he couldn't explain, he would just say, well, it's the woo-woo stuff. And he got away with it. But it's the woo-woo place where I live, actually. And so when you look at the material that you've put forward, it's fascinating. You have some stories of miraculous healing of people that were on the brink of death that, almost got up and walked out. The one lady who they thought was definitely going to die, and she just suddenly, she had been praying. I believe that's the lady that was praying, the lady you were talking about.
Barbara Kumiski.
Yeah. And they have no explanation as to why, but cells heal, cells change, cells just suddenly knitted together and became whole again. It was her effort that did it.
Well, it was her attunement through prayer to healing power, the healing connection to spirit. We also have our beliefs are extremely powerful in terms of whether we heal or don't heal. And our emotions are another innate power that we can use for good or ill to help us with our healing. But that story you mentioned, I always like to tell it. So I'm going to take this excuse to tell it.
Oh, sure.
About this woman named Barbara Kumiski, as I mentioned. When she was 16, she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And for the next 15 years, she gradually declined until towards the end of that period of time, She actually had several near misses with death. And at the time of the telling of this story, her family, who had been lovingly taking care of her for all these years, assumed that her time was coming. They were considering putting her into hospice care. She couldn't walk because all the muscles in her legs had changed to such a degree that her feet were curled up towards her shins. Similarly, her hands had curled in so tightly towards her forearms that she could barely use her hands. She needed oxygen to stay alive. She was incontinent. She was barely functional. And the only thing she could do were things that were allowed her to use her mind and her heart. So she became deeply engrossed in praying for people. She prayed for people many hours a day. And being a Christian, she prayed to Jesus. She prayed to the sort of Christian approach to understanding God. And then one evening when she was with friends, talking to friends as she lay in her bed, she heard this commanding voice that said, "Get up and walk." And she did. Now, her friends could not hear this voice, just she. And she got up, she stood up, and as she did so, her feet reformed so that she could stand. She gained muscle mass in her legs, her hands straightened out. She gained muscle mass in her arms. She took off the oxygen mask because she no longer needed it. And she walked into the living room of her parents' home where she'd been all these years and did a little ballet move that she hadn't done since she came down with multiple sclerosis. She was completely healed in minutes.
Wow.
She gained weight. She gained dexterity. She regained energy. She was back to being healthy. The next day, she saw her physician who had been working with her all these years, and he was astonished to see that this happened, but he said, there is no sign of multiple sclerosis anywhere in your body. So this story and others like it tell us there's something else going on other than biochemistry and biomechanics that can explain such extraordinarily rapid physical change.
I think that things like this, and I've heard of others that are as not quite as compelling as this, but definitely I would call a miraculous healing. That you sit back and you think, why them? Why? What did they do? How did they facilitate this to happen when other people don't? And you go into meditation, and you go into prayer, and you go into attitude, and you go into emotions, and they all figure into it. And I think that it's important for people to understand that there's so many contributing factors here that can determine, how you're going to deal with something like this when it comes along. I know I have a very positive attitude on life. It's there's a reason for everything, and it's a good reason. It's a lesson I need to learn, or it's a challenge I need to surmount, or I don't really dwell on a negative. I dwell on the positive a negative shows me. And because of that, I'm 81 years old, and for the most part, I don't take any medications of any sort. And it's sort of like you do create your reality by your perception of it and how you interact with your reality. It is definitely a spiritual thing, but it's also an awareness thing too, knowing you have the power to do something like this.
I think far more than most people have even heard, let alone deeply believe. We determine our health, our emotions, our beliefs, our connection or lack of connection to our soul, our self, to spirit. It is almost 95% of the picture for whether we're healthy or unhealthy. The other 5%, 10%, pick a small number yourself, is diet, it's exercise, it's the supplements, various things that you can do and should do. But even if you were doing all of those good things that are sort of outside yourself, so to speak, but were experiencing prolonged negative emotions, or if you had a deep-seated conviction that you were going to get some kind of cancer, or if you were completely out of touch with your inner being, you're going to get ill regardless of whether you're doing all those outward things or not, because all of those factors are so much more powerful than the outward ones that, if you're not doing them, you're going to be experiencing just about without exception, some kind of negative health experience.
Well, you had a great example, sad example actually, but a good example of this where there was a man who had heard about a cure. Was it cancer?
Right, head cancer. Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead, tell it. It's a great
It's a
story.
great story. I tell it all the time. I love it. It's kind of a cautionary tale because it doesn't really have a happy ending like Barbara Comiskey or other stories I could tell. Because this man's belief was centered in modern medicine. And he was in the hospital, I think in the 60s or 70s in Southern California. And he was there because he had an advanced state of lymphoma. And he had tumors all over his chest, and his lungs were filled with fluid. And without, hospital care and oxygen, he would not have been able to last as long as he did. But he was a firm believer that there was a medicine, there was a treatment. And he learned that in the very hospital where he was dying, they were going to trial a chemotherapy treatment called cribiazine. And cribiazine was believed or hoped to have a curative effect on lymphoma. So he talked his doctor into letting him be in the trial, even though he wasn't optimum for the trial because he was really too far gone. They were looking for people in earlier stages of that cancer. But nonetheless, the doctor gave him an injection on a Friday afternoon. And when he came back on Monday, Mr. Wright, as his name was up and about, walking around. The tumors had vanished. The fluid had drained out of his lungs. His energy had returned. And within a couple of days, checked out of the hospital and went home. Alas, he read, after being home for a month or two, that this drug was proving ineffective for any kind of cancer. And this sent him into a remission of the, not a remission, but a return of his cancer. And he checked back into the hospital pretty much with the same symptoms, the tumors, the fluid in his lungs, the low energy. And his doctor, Dr. West, was kind of astonished by the whole thing. On the one hand, he healed so rapidly when he actually knew that no one else in the trial had healed at all. And yet, as soon as the man, Mr. Wright, learned that it hadn't worked, he regained his negative state of health. So he tried something which today might be considered unethical. He talked with Mr. Wright and he said, while it's true that cribiazin is proving ineffective, within a few days from now, the hospital is going to get a shipment of a new and improved cribiazin. And I'm willing to let you try it. So Mr. Wright's sort of buoyant tendency towards optimism rose to the surface. He couldn't wait to get this treatment. And when he got another injection of the new and improved cribiazin, which actually was just saline solution, it was a pure placebo, he rallied again. All of the tumors disappeared. The fluid drained out of his lungs. Once again, he checked out of his hospital and went home. But alas, because of his deep-seated belief that it was cribiazin that had healed him, he read once again that cribiazin was proving utterly ineffective and it wasn't being given to anybody at all. And he crashed back into the hospital. Tumors reappeared, fluid reappeared. But this time, because he didn't believe there was any other possible treatment for his condition, he died 2 days later.
My gosh.
So it's a remarkable story illustrating the power of belief. Unfortunately, he wasn't believing in unlimited healing power. He wasn't believing in his own internal healing powers of, positive emotion, connection to spirit, unlimited possibility of healing. He wasn't believing in those. He was believing in drugs. And in this case, the drugs let him down and he died. But it's an indicator to all of us.
Yeah.
Just how strongly our convictions about what can or can't heal us, how big that effect can be on us.
Well, our body is powerful. Our mind is powerful. And it to me is the power of positive thinking and stuff like that. A lot of people poo-poo it, but the reality is it's true. And your attitude, you do create your reality by your perception of it. And if there are plenty of people that pray and pray and pray and don't get that miracle happening, but there are other factors that figure into this on top of the element of prayer. It's also your emotional stability, what's going on inside of you, what you believe in, and how deeply you believe in it. It's not necessarily religious as much as it is a spiritual aspect that we're talking about here.
Well, I think there's a combination, which is really the heart of the book, The Physics of Miraculous Healing. There's a combination of science and what I call spiritual science that, when you combine them, give you a very powerful belief in the potential of unlimited healing, of even extraordinarily rapid healing, like Mr. Wright experienced and like Barbara Comiskey experienced. But because many people, I won't say most, but maybe it's most people are conditioned by and believe in the medical model, their belief in it prevents unlimited healing because the current medical model we have says that unlimited healing isn't possible, that certain diseases are infallibly terminal, and that once you have certain kinds of cancer, it's just a matter of time before you die. And these strong convictions from the world of medicine convince people that these facts, as they're put forward, are true. And as Dr. Bernie Siegel, in his lovely book, Love, Medicine, and Miracles, said, most cancer patients obligingly, as he put it, die right within the time frame that their doctors predict that this particular kind of cancer will run its course. And that only those people who refuse to accept that diagnosis, to accept that particular time frame, you're told you have 2 years to live or 4 years to live or 6 months to live, those people who don't believe it and are willing to sort of take charge of their health rather than sort of just let it be dictated to them by whatever doctor they have, they would very often live well beyond and even become cured of these what are considered terminal cancers. But I find it's very helpful for people to not just have to believe in something else despite of what science is saying, and share with them that modern physics actually offers a very profound alternative picture to biochemistry and biomechanics that can explain why a person could live beyond those predictions and how rapid healing can take place. And the key part of that is a discipline within physics known as M theory. Now, there's a lot of sort of other branches of physics that support M theory, such as Einstein's relativity and quantum physics and string theory. But I'm going to kind of leap over them, although I don't in my book. But for the sake of the time we have here together, I'm going to leap right to M theory, because M theory has the most convincing reason for how extraordinarily rapid physical healing can take place. So I'm going to jump forward through a lot of aspects of the discipline and get to one of their core tenets, one of their being M theorists, one of their core tenets is that our physical body is a holographic projection from another realm. And this realm is a realm of pure energy. And in fact, from that realm of pure energy, they also posit that our entire universe is a holographic projection. It's not that it isn't real or that our physical body isn't real. It's just not what it appears to be. It's actually made of energy, and it's made of energy that is being projected from this other realm of pure energy, high level energy, high intensity energy, and that in that other realm, the hologram that guides and, is the film, if you will, in the projector, that when the holographic projection is made, that's what it looks like. So that the film of our physical body, bringing it down to a sort of a smaller picture, is created continuously. So moment by moment, our physical body is being created from this other realm based on the hologram, based on the film, based on the template that exists in this other realm. Now, if you've never encountered this, it's probably fairly mind-blowing to know that this is coming from the frontiers of modern physics, and in fact is the most accepted version of this advanced level of physics, and that the scientists, the physicists who are involved in this and expanding this discipline say unequivocally that everything in the physical universe, including people, animals, planets, everything, is a continuous holographic projection. Now, what's wonderful about this, from certainly from my point of view, but I think many people find this wonderful, is that it so neatly matches spiritual science.
Yeah.
Spiritual science says that we have a subtle astral body that exists beyond the physical realm and exists in the astral realm, and that subtle astral body is continuously creating and maintaining our physical body. The two match, just almost 100%. So the reason why this can and should open everyone's mind to the possibility of extraordinarily rapid healing, and that everything, every disease can be cured, is because if you change the hologram, if you change the subtle energy body, the physical body changes instantly.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can change the beliefs that are shaping your subtle energy body, it changes the physical body. If you change the emotions that are interfering with the energy body's maintenance of the physical body, then that interference will vanish. If you embrace positive emotions and the negative emotions fade, then even though it's not as dramatic as the change that a profound change in belief might bring, it has the same profound depth of ability to heal you. And connecting to spirit is like supercharging your beliefs and supercharging your positive emotions. You put all those together, and you can sort of visualize a shining, vital energy body, astral body, reflecting as a shining and vital physical body. Change can happen instantaneously in the energy body, which is reflected instantly in the physical body. So science backs up the possibility. Science, physics in particular, and M theory even more so, gives us, permission, gives us the mental acceptance to understand healing and the potential of healing in a much different way than modern medicine's more limited biochemical, biomechanical model of healing does.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had an experience. Gosh, it was like 40 years ago. I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, and it was severe, severe, severe. And they told me I was going to turn yellow and die,
Uh-huh.
basically. And when I looked, when the doctor, he didn't say it quite that way, but this is basically what he said. And I looked
Right.
at him and I said, I don't have time for that.
Uh-huh.
And he said, what? And I said, that's ridiculous. I don't have time for that. I'm not going to do that. And, he pulled my mother aside and suggested a psych evaluation. Clearly, it didn't happen, and I have no indication that I ever had ulcerative colitis. And it was like, at that point, I'm not sure exactly where I was, but I knew that I had a small child I had to raise by myself, and I was too busy to die. And so I didn't. And now I did take medication for a number of years. I won't say that it was, slam bam all gone, but I didn't follow what they suggested was going to be my pathway.
Right. And had you, in fact, believed it, you
Might
would
have.
have died.
But it was, but then because I wasn't doing all the stuff that I'm doing now then, but I was open to the, I have the ability to make these changes, and I'm going to, and I have I have a serious connection to my spirit, but a casual way of approaching it. And I sit down and have talks with my spirit, and, hey, don't you think we ought to do this, or does this look better? And the reality is that if you can get that connection to the spirit, that is a true connection, you can make subtle changes, and work with your spirit in order to have a better physical presence within this reality. I mean, to me, the spirit is that part of me that will go lifetime to lifetime to lifetime, and each lifetime another avatar is created, and work, and the spirit will work through whatever that physicality is in order to learn what it needs to learn to go on to the yet another lifetime. But I found fascinating also, you had, and I've worked a couple of times with someone with multiple personalities, and I was fascinated with how someone with multiple personalities, would they have multiple different subtle bodies on the other side? Is that how it?
It's an interesting question. I often get asked it, but I don't know really, honestly, even what I believe. I think, to me, the most, fits what I know of spiritual science the best is that each personality has a part of the same mind. Not that there are multiple souls trying to work through a single body, and that each one of those souls has its own mind. I tend to think that the mind can shatter. And it's part of the reason I think that is that most multiple personality disorder sufferers were victims of a severe abuse. And that their mind, I think, just splintered into these different personalities in order to survive, essentially, and to try to find some state of being where happiness was possible. And so, how exactly a mind could splinter, I can't tell you, but I think that is the more likely experience, because they do share certain things in common, even though they all have very different aspects as well.
But some of them are right-handed, some of them are left-handed. Some of their eyes change. The color in their eyes change. Some of them are allergic to things, and some of them are not. And
there are even more dramatic differences. My current favorite, is about a woman, a German woman, I believe, who, when she came to her therapist, or came to a therapist who became her therapist, she was blind. And she had 10 personalities.
Wow.
Over time, and I don't know how many years this was of being in therapy, gradually 9 out of 10 of her personalities began to be able to see to varying degrees. But one of them, and let's just call it personality 1, personality 1 remained convinced that she was blind. But as soon as she would enter personality 2 or 3 or 5, then she could see to varying degrees. Now, the time it takes to move from one personality to another is seconds to minutes. Yeah. And because this was such an extraordinary case, she was willing to be closely observed. She had EEG net on her head, on her scalp, and she was tested as she went into varying personalities. When she was in personality 1, and that personality believed absolutely that she was blind, she could have bright lights shined in her open eyes, and there would be nothing register in her brain. She was blind, not something you can just think you're blind and not really be blind. She was blind. And then when she would go into any of the other personalities and the same bright light was shined in her eyes, her brain would register the impact of that light. So in seconds, billions to trillions of neurons and cells in her eyes and in her brain transform in order to enable her to be sighted or enable her to be blind. It changes the DNA in her cells, and this happens in instants, all because of that extraordinary power of belief. So what we believe, in your example, from somewhere within you, you believe that this didn't apply to you.
Yeah.
And you just didn't have time for it, but you believed it with the kind of conviction that was curative. So anyone who's dealing with some kind of diagnosis, be really careful not to believe that it's incurable. I think it's certainly fine to believe that you have a condition and to take medicine for that condition. Many people who are cancer sufferers, have to decide whether they want to do chemotherapy or radiation. And I think it's completely up to each person to make that decision. But the key thing you want to believe is whether you do all those treatments or you don't do all those treatments, is that you're going to heal, that you can heal. And that is the number one common characteristic of all of the people who survive cancer, is that they believed that they could.
I think one of the interesting things that was brought up in the book is that they were trying to find where the aspect of healing was in the brain, or just what part of the brain had the healing aspects to it. And then they finally they thought it was in the medulla oblongata, and they finally realized that it was all over the brain. It wasn't one particular area, which suggested that it was in the subtle body that was in the second dimension, and that's where the actual main desk was, where decisions and choices were made, and then it hit, the 3D part of us, and so it does make sense to me that while the spirit knows that it is immortal, that it will go lifetime to lifetime, that this lifetime is something that can be healed, that's there. It's a matter of how do we connect our physical self with that spiritual self so that we can have a greater sense of controlling physically what goes on within our bodies.
Well, I think it's important, and I often hear people say things that give me the impression that they're thinking their astral body or their subtle energy body or their hologram, however you think of it, is far away because it's in another dimension.
Mm-hmm.
But the dimensions are interpenetrating. So our energy body is right here.
Mm-hmm.
There is no distance between the physical body and the energy body. And most of what we experience when we go through our day and do everything that we do in an ordinary day, most of what we experience is not the physical body. It's the subtle energy body. Subtle energy body is the origin of our feelings. It's the origin of our thoughts. It's the origin of our convictions. It's the location of our memories. It's what creates the mind's eye view that puts together all the sensory input and turns it into this spherical sense we have of the physical world around us. All that's being done by the subtle energy body. Without it, we would just be a pile of matter. It's really the energy body that animates, creates, maintains the physical, makes it behave like a physical body. And it's the astral and subtle energy body that we have most of our experience centered in that. Our beliefs, our deeply held beliefs, originate from a yet higher level of spiritual body, known as the causal body or the thought body. And it, being higher, has the ability to shape the energy body, to determine things about the energy body. So that's why beliefs are sort of extra powerful in this equation, that if you hold the belief that because your father died young of a certain kind of cancer, and you found out that you have genetic markers for that kind of cancer, that the place you hold that is in your causal body, which shapes the energy body, and in turn shapes the physical body. And that power of belief can actually down-regulate genes that you need to fight cancer. And it can upregulate genes that will tend to create tumors. All because of that powerful belief you're holding that, you're likely to get cancer and die because that you believe it so. So we're operating in all of these levels of who we really are all the time. But we're conditioned to think it's all going on inside the physical body, right? We're conditioned to think that it's happening in the brain and it's happening in our DNA and in our cells. And really, most of what we are is beyond the physical body.
So if one wanted to open a clearer channel from the physical to the spiritual, you talk about many different ways that this can be done. And I'm, you know, I totally believe that we do have. It's funny, you see yourself sitting here in a physical body, and yet you know that this is not where the real decisions are made. It's deeper within you, or or around you, whichever way you want to look at it. Because you know there are overlays and everything, but so intellectually looking to become more connected spiritually, how does one go about that?
Well, the number one way that I recommend will come as no surprise to you or probably most of your listeners, and that is meditation. Meditation is designed to put you in touch with the more subtle aspects of yourself. Because at a very fundamental level, what you do when you meditate, when you sit still, is you begin to lose awareness of the physical body. You begin to retreat from the awareness you have if you're constantly in motion or you're doing something. You know, you're using the physical body to, I don't know, cook dinner or take a walk or take your pick. While you're doing that, you're very, very aware of the physical body. But if you sit to meditate and you close your eyes and you sit very still, that kind of awareness begins to diminish until with practice, you can get to the point where you're not aware of your physical body at all. Now, that's not an easy stage to get to, but it is possible. It's what the advanced yogis tell us, advanced Buddhists tell us, that you transcend the physical body. But even before that, just becoming less aware, less bombarded by sensory stimuli, you, on the flip side, become more aware of your subtle self. And you begin to feel the innate peace. You begin to feel the innate joy that is the deeper reality of yourself. And feeling that, experiencing that, will awaken positive emotions, will convince you in a way that few other things can, that you're not a physical body, that's not the majority, it's not the most of what you are, it's the least of what you are. Because when you touch into spirit, touch into self through meditation, you know it. There's the old saying, seeing is believing. So experiencing is believing, and experiencing will convince you of the reality of yourself beyond the physical more than any other thing that you can do.
I think that when you talk to people who have had near-death experiences, who have, died and come back, I would say a large percentage of them, I want to say like 95%, and I think it's even more probably. But once they have been in spirit or in that part of their body, they're aware that there is so much more, and that when they come back, they no longer have fears about a lot of things, and they have a more positive outlook on life. And there is definitely a clearer link between the physical and the spiritual. They may not describe it that way, but their attitude of life itself has changed so dramatically. It has to be partially that.
Yes. No, I think it's a profound experience, obviously, because they're left in no doubt that what they're experiencing is beyond the physical. And while in many of the stories, while they're in that state, they learn to appreciate that the only real purpose they have in a life in a physical body is to learn things. And the main one is to learn to love, and that none of the other goals that they may have had when they had their near-death experience are anywhere near as important. And some had so little importance that they just dropped them. They stopped that pursuit or that behavior and concentrated more deeply on learning to love, learning to be a open-hearted, kind, generous, supportive person, and in so doing, become a channel for divine love, for their higher self to come through.
Yeah, we had a long time ago. We did a series of shows on near-death experiences, and I interviewed a lot of people. And the one that touched me the most was a young girl. She was, I think, 18, troubled, in having difficulties everywhere. She committed or tried to commit suicide, and succeeded and was brought back. And when I talked with her, and I said, "Tell me what it was like," and she said, "Well, I flew," and she said, it wasn't that I was surrounded by love, or drawn by love, or pushed by love. She said, "You have to understand something. When you die, you become love."
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, oh, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, when you are pure love, you don't want to come back to physical. And but she changed her life tremendously. And it made her so much more appreciative of what she was and how she could impact others, that it was profound to see. And sometimes they speak with others, sometimes they write a book or two or three or four, or but there's a constant urge to share that experience, to let people know that love is an amazing quality. And if you can take it into the spiritual realm and experience the love of creation, there's nothing better.
And as you say, when you get into that experience, the near-death experiencers, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to create anything. You don't have to learn anything. You just know that you are love and that you are joy. And this is also what can be experienced in deep meditation.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different way to achieve that same state of awareness. But once you have that state of awareness, people come out of meditation just knowing that they are spirit, that they are love, that they are joy, that they are peace, and that all we have to do, I say all because it's not necessarily simple, but in a way it's simple, is all we have to do is allow ourselves to relax into that reality. And when we do, it's transformative.
Oh, magic happens.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. And you know, I know there are probably people out there thinking, "Oh, that's so soapy and everything," but it is. It is. It's but
Uh-huh.
the reality is that once in that state, everything takes on a whole nother a whole nother light. That state,
Mhm.
that essence is light that is beyond the light that the bulbs give us and the sun gives us. It's a different kind of light. It's not one that you blink at. It's one that you absorb.
Mhm. You realize
And
it's shining from within you.
yeah,
I think it's important to say, however, to people who might have that reaction, that it's kind of soupy sounding, sappy sounding,
yeah.
is that it's actually very empowering, and even a little touch into it, let alone these deep experiences we've been talking about, will make you more energized. It will uh, make you more concentrated and effective in anything that you choose to do. Um, you become a much better version of what you already are, and then you can add new dimensions to yourself as well. So it's not the case that if you have these kind of experiences, you become um, sort of Pollyannish um,
Yeah.
or passive or placid. You become really far more dynamic because it um, clears away the blockages to behavior that you may have already been carrying around, and it energizes you at a deep level. And it makes even living the life you've chosen to live much more fulfilling than it might have been otherwise, as well as gives you that other deep dimension of contentment and satisfaction and happiness.
Well, how did it happen that we got to the point that we became so civilized that we relied that we lean on physical science as opposed to where we know we came from? Because if you go way back in history, um, way back, maybe before history, but early Homo sapiens, earliest, they they were more in touch with the divine than we are today, than man is today. There was no religion. There was the all, the light, the source, whatever you want to call it. And they ate healthier and they lived off the land. And then suddenly you come forward and you become modern and you no longer trust what's natural. You listen to people who have degrees and stuff on the wall, but you don't pay attention to yourself anymore. You don't trust yourself. You trust everybody else, but not the spirit that you carry within. What happened to us?
Well, what we think of as being modern in comparison to the higher ages in the past is, I believe, part and parcel of modern age is a fixation on trying to find happiness through the physical, trying to achieve what appears to be, ever greater possibilities of happiness by acquiring more things, by experiencing more things. And we're immersed in a society that embraces these attitudes. So it's conditioning at a deep level. But there are, those of us who, like you, like me, like really millions of others these days, who realize that that doesn't work. That
Yeah.
if you keep trying harder and harder to find more and more happiness in possessions or experience or accomplishment, you'll eventually find that there's a sort of an emptiness, a hollowness that people experience, that it simply doesn't give you the kind of depth of happiness that at an intuitive level is possible, but you don't get it from those pursuits, those goals. And then people often turn to spiritual teachings, other more subtle teachings of one kind or another, to try to find that, because they're always there. They're universally true, and they're always accessible.
Well, I don't understand why meditation isn't taught in school. I don't understand why, if you're looking to create a well-rounded human, why are you ignoring the most important part of that human, which is the soul, the spirit, the connection to one?
It is actually taught in some school systems, not just private school, spiritually oriented private school systems, but there are some school systems, and I think the number is growing, that recognize that meditation is not a religious activity, which is, people think that's a bad thing to have in schools. But they're recognizing that it is a tool that makes people more able, more aware, more concentrated, healthier. And so it does get taught in schools, but it's slow, very slow to spread.
I taught special ed for 25 years. And I forget what we were studying, ancient Egypt or something. And I mentioned meditation, and the kids said, "Well, what's that?" And I said, "Well, I could give you a real long definition, but let me show you." And I took a 15-minute meditation
Mm-hmm.
and led meditation. And a couple of them afterwards said, "I feel real good." And they asked if they could do it every day. And little 15-minute meditation every morning. They were more attentive. They were more relaxed. They were more everything. It was just delightful. But somebody told on me, and I had to stop.
Uh-huh.
And it was really very, very sad, because, and I was using also the Four Seasons, Vivaldi's Four Seasons. I was playing it during the day because it facilitated super learning because of the rhythm and everything. And
Mm-hmm.
the kids were able to concentrate longer. They couldn't stop me doing that, but I was told it was a religious thing I was doing, and I said, "There's nothing religious about what I was doing. It was relaxation." And I couldn't justify it enough. But
yeah, well, people are still suspicious of anything that they think even has the slight whiff of being spiritual or religious. But it is changing. It is improving. Since the mid 60s, certainly the 50s, the number of people who do meditate on their own has gone from maybe a couple million people to 100 million people in
wow.
America. So it is making headway, and I think it makes headway because it works. People
Well,
get
yeah.
results.
And if you look at even the Olympics, where they do judo and they do wrestling and everything, why don't they do Tai Chi? I mean, that's a form of meditation too.
Hmm.
And it just, and I think what a lot of people don't realize is there are so many different ways you can meditate. That as many grains of sand that are on the beach, there are that many different forms of meditation. And when you find one that really takes you to where you need to go, you've won the lottery.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, meditation is the core of my life. I would never give it up in a million years because it has brought me, positive health, happiness, concentration, clarity, but above all, just happiness. I'm able to feel joy in meditation that has nothing to do with anything else that's happening in my life. I just feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And by having that experience, it just carries into my day and allows me to feel that joy, maybe not as intensely as I do while I'm meditating, but it carries me through like a very positive mood throughout the rest of the day. And over the years, over the decades, it's just gotten deeper and deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
I can't recommend meditation enough.
I think what people have to also realize is that it's not usual that you get it immediately. That it is something that you build upon and you grow with, and it grows with you. So that I heard somebody said to me once, "Well, I tried meditation once and it didn't work." And I said, "Once?"
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. I like to say to people, think of anything that you value that you learned how to do. How long did it take you? How
Yeah.
long did it take you to play an instrument? How long did it take you to speak a foreign language? How long did it take you to become a programmer or a mathematician? Or how long did it take you to learn to be an artist or a creative person in any way? All of it took commitment. And meditation is no different. But it's also no different, which means that if you just apply yourself to it, you can learn it and you can gain all the same benefits from it that anyone else does. It's
Oh
not
yeah.
it's not a case where some people can meditate and others can't. Everybody can meditate.
Oh yeah. But it's a matter of what are you opening yourself up to? Lots of times, I know people will say, "Well, I thought, somebody said, well, I got there and then I thought immediately I must be meditating. And then I realized I thought, so I wasn't." And
Yes, I
at the,
mean, we have so many experiences in meditation. I can honestly say that I've never had the same meditation twice. I've
Mhm.
had good meditations, I've had better meditations, I've had bad meditations where I can't concentrate to save myself. But it's, you are a unique being, and every moment you're going to be having unique experiences. So don't expect it to be something you just get and then you're done. You've got it. It's infinitely changing, and I imagine that every person has a different experience of it. Although you can describe them in similar ways, the unique expression you have versus what I have is genuinely going to be unique.
oh, sure. And I think there's somebody said to me once, I don't have to meditate, I pray. And I said, but wait, prayer is talking, meditation is listening. And I said, there's room for both in your life. But don't do one and not the other. Do them both.
Yeah, I agree.
And
And meditation will deepen your prayers.
Yeah.
And prayers will deepen your meditation. I think prayers, when they're done with the greatest depth, connects you to spirit, connects you to whoever, whatever high being you're praying to or praying with, that you feel connected. So I think part of the divine experience is active and part of the divine experience is receptive, but they're woven together. You can't really just choose one or the other.
That it brings to mind, there are those that chant a mantra as a meditation. How is that different from just silently meditating?
One of the key things that I have learned from the various meditation techniques that I practice and from the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda, who brought those techniques to the West, is that one of the key elements of success in any of them is learning to focus. And mantra can be a way to help you focus. Not being focused means that you have thoughts coming and carrying you away. So those thoughts could be about what you have to do that afternoon, or a conversation you had with somebody yesterday, or a book you read, or whatever. All those thoughts easily can come into a meditation practice, and you go with it. Oh, yes, this afternoon. Yes, I need to do. And before you know it, as pretty much everybody who meditates that I know has experienced, you can be seconds, minutes, tens of minutes down the path of thinking about that before you remember that you were supposed to be meditating.
Yeah.
So a mantra can sort of work with the fact that you tend to want to latch your mind onto something, that's a very natural way in which you use your mind. So if you can latch your mind onto a mantra, it will keep your mind focused and take you deeper. So there are many techniques. I have a meditation technique that's in this book, and it's on my website, called the Hung Saw technique. And the Hung Saw is a mantra, and it literally means I am spirit. I am spirit. And you use that in this technique in synchronization with your breathing. So as you inhale, you say hung, I am. And as you exhale, you say saw, I am spirit. And it's a very strong focusing technique. So you get to the point where the other thoughts that we're trying to invade and carry you off subside. You calm down. A concentrated state in meditation feels very different than a normal state of mind where you've got so many elements coming into your mind. Where a concentrated state is a calm, quiet state where the heart is calm, the mind is calm, and it's a wonderful state. So mantra can help you achieve that. I mean, there are other techniques. There are pranayama techniques where you breathe in a very specific way that calms the breath in general, so that after you've finished your pranayama, you just are barely breathing. You breathe a slow, deep breath. And that too will interiorize you and make it much more easy to be inwardly focused and feel that presence of spirit. And all of these techniques will take you, if you're patient and determined, to where you feel spirit, you feel love, you feel joy.
Yeah.
And then that becomes infatuating. You know, it carries you up and into a higher state of consciousness where at that point you don't need a technique to help you get there. You're there. You're feeling and focused in that. And those become the most moving, the most powerful meditations that you're likely to have.
Yeah, I found that I had at first a horrible time turning my brain off.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just you know, saying, go to the movies. Just stop. Just silence. Give me silence.
Uh-huh.
And that was the hardest thing for me to sort of stop the thinking, stop writing the next book, or stop working on whatever you were working on. Just stop and relax and take a nap. Because you really don't want an intellectual concept to get in the way of a spiritual experience.
Mm-hmm.
I found also using using music of sorts to help me float helped a lot too.
Mm-hmm.
So that from time to time, you will find something works or it doesn't work for you, and then you just move on. You find, I mean, for everyone that doesn't work, there will be one that does.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, I've had the experience where I've seen a movie. I remember one in particular that helped me have this experience, which was Chariots of Fire. Chariots of Fire, a very inspiring, powerful, uplifting movie. And I had watched it, and so my mind was full of it. But I, without really any deliberate intent, found myself playing kind of over and over the really most moving moments. And I was uplifted by that to the point where I stopped thinking about the movie. So there are things you can consider and think about that won't distract you, they'll focus you. There are music you can play, or chants you can sing silently that will take you deeply into divine experience or higher experience, however you want to think of it, and help you connect to spirit. That, you begin with them, but then they just kind of carry you forward and then you leave them behind. So you don't have to have this cast iron grip on your mind that doesn't allow it to think. Because in my experience, that doesn't work at all. That I have to, kind of coax myself in 1,001 ways, because I've meditated thousands and thousands of times, but to coax myself into concentrating, being gentle with myself, being forgiving of myself when I don't. One of the first things you have to deal with is learning to sit still. sitting very still is very conducive to calming the mind. So, find a comfortable posture to meditate in. I still sit in a chair. I don't have the flexibility in my legs that allows me to sit cross-legged comfortably for long periods of time, where I can sit in a chair, but I sit upright in a chair, and I sit in a way with my hands palms upward on my thighs. And that allows me to reach a point where I'm not moving, or I'm not moving very much at all. And when I get to that stage, it sort of ushers you into the higher feeling, ushers you into the higher awareness, that also allows you to concentrate more deeply. So those are the two keys that I usually teach to people: is learn to become still, learn to become inwardly absorbed. And whatever method will get you inwardly absorbed, and whatever method will get you sitting still, is the right method for you. And then let them carry you into spirit. Once you're in spirit, once you start feeling those connections, you sort of know what to do intuitively. You stay with it longer and longer. You relish it more and more. And it becomes second nature once you get to that stage, to go with it and to feel saturated in it.
And once you are, it changes you, but you don't think about what change I'm going to make. You become the change.
Mm-hmm.
So that it's not a matter of, I'm going to meditate today so that, I have a freer attitude towards healing myself or whatever. You go into a meditation and connect to spirit, or what the spirit feels is most important for you, not what you think on an intellectual level is most important for you.
Mm-hmm. And it's you're operating yourself. The way Yogananda puts it is the first stage of the process is to reconnect with your soul or self. But once you've reconnected with your soul or self, then there's the deeper dimension of reconnecting to spirit, the greater reality of which you are a part, of which you are an individualized expression of spirit. So you have all the awareness, you have all the essence of spirit, but which allows you to connect to spirit completely, to remember yourself as spirit. And that process is, at least so far to me, I can't tell you that I have reunited completely with spirit. I would love to tell you that I've reunited completely with spirit, but as the experience progresses, it is, as you say, it's its own experience. You don't really try to control it or guide it or have any kind of purpose for it or goal for it. That you just immerse yourself in it as deeply as you can go and let it be what it's going to be.
Well, it's very much like over the the sign that was over where the Delphi prophets were, was to know thyself. And that's basically what you're doing. You're getting to know yourself. And with whatever depth that takes you to, gives you an awareness that will greatly enhance your physical reality when you're back in when you're all back in the third dimension again.
Mhm.
So that your attitude, your perception, your understanding of the purpose of life is so very different. How you treat other people is so very different. So that you become an expression of the perfection that's inside of you.
Mhm.
Here and there, not all the
Here
time,
and
but
there.
here
Yes.
and there.
And it comes, my experience has been, and I've been meditating for 50 plus years now. My experience is that you kind of realize that you're being transformed when you spontaneously do something that you might not have before, a spontaneous act of generosity or an insight into yourself or an insight into someone else or a creative thought for how to accomplish something that you need to do or want to do, that these things happen just naturally. I don't necessarily think, okay, now I've got to figure out how to do this. Knowing how to do it comes with the thought of what it is I need to do.
I
And
have
that's
found
wonderful.
that synchronicities happen more profoundly around people who have that do meditation, and that at least in my life, the more that I come in touch with and connected to that inner me, outer me, that part of me, the more connected I am to that, the greater the synchronicities happen in my life. Things happen, they fall into place faster. They fall into place more easily. I don't have to make things happen. I have to get out of the way so they can happen. And it's a wonderful way of getting confirmation that there's been a connection. There's been something has happened here, and it's not just the physical me at work here, it's a spiritual me at work as well, with
Mm-hmm.
a common focus. So
Yeah,
that
when we get all aspects of ourselves aligned,
Mhm.
amazing things happen. They aren't necessarily, shouty things, that other people would think were really important. But um, things come to you, as you say. What I find the most common occurrence of that for me is when I am writing and I'm considering, what to say next. What should this next paragraph be? What's the next step in this description or narration? And I'll have a full blown idea come that have never had before or never read before.
Mhm.
And I know that it's just right. It's just right, the next thing to say. And I feel a little bit, um, wow, how did that happen? It wasn't me, uh, and it was wonderful.
Yeah,
And
I
that, I think, happens more and more, no matter what you do, when you make that deep connection.
I
to spirit.
yeah, when that has when it happens with me, it's I will often say, well, that was through me, that was not of me,
Mm-hmm.
because it came through me for sure, but I didn't think it before it happened. And it's an exciting thing. It really is. And it can happen anywhere. It doesn't have to be a creative endeavor, although that's a great outlet, because if you're doing something creative, then all sorts of good stuff flow. I
Mm-hmm.
always tell people, if life isn't moving for you fast enough, do something creative, because creativity will fuel the movement of your spirit within you, and it will give spirit an outlet to express itself through.
Mm-hmm.
So get creative, and I don't care what you do creatively, just so long as you're not paid for it, because they won't let you double dip, I found. I tried it, it didn't work.
Uh-huh.
But it's amazing. I think what I love about your book, because it is focused on healing, and I don't think there's any of us, no matter how healthy we are, that there isn't room for healing on some level, in some way, in some area. And it's a profound thing to give yourself the opportunity to experience healing, even though you don't know where you need it the most, because it will go there if
Mm-hmm.
you open to it. I tell people, if you try to, somebody said to me once that they were doing Reiki on somebody, and they were sending them energy, and they didn't see that there was any change in the person. And I said, well, wait a minute here. You're free to send energy. That's okay. But the receiver is free to use it in whatever area is most important, not where you think it is. So that it's a matter of, she was sending energy for a certain thing, and that wasn't having anything happen. But I said, did you talk about the person? Is anything happening in their life? Is there a difference in any area of their life other than where you were aiming? You can't um, impose your energy on someone else. You can share energy, and they can use it how they want to. You can't tell them how to use it. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
like it's like giving somebody a gift and telling them how to use it, or where to put it, or how to wear it, or whatever. That's not what a gift is.
Mm-hmm.
I think that understanding that when you're talking about energy of any sort, that what you're getting from spirit is energy, and it's of the purest kind, and it's an enjoyable experience. And I think that we've sort of sashayed away from your book here a little bit, but I think the element of healing is something that has healing, especially spiritual healing, has been going on for that as long as there have been people who felt power in their hands. There has been healing that's been going on, and
Mm-hmm.
and you can feel it within your own hands. We are electromagnetic beings. We can generate heat by just rubbing our hands together and feeling the energy between the palms of our hands, so that there is that element of, there's energy there. How do we use it? Where do we put it? And I think also looking at the fact that through meditation we can get in touch with the spirit within us, and open that channel for energy to flow through us, and to help our body become better than it is now.
Yeah, you can open to being a healer, but you can also open to doing all the various things we've been talking about, creativity and
Mm-hmm.
taking care of other people. The only reason I say it is I don't want people to think that in order to be able to heal yourself, that you need to also be able to heal others. I think you can heal yourself by tapping into positive emotions, cultivating positive emotions, so that negative emotions, negative moods that you might have fade away as the positive emotions grow in strength, and getting your beliefs in alignment with the deeper truths we've been talking about here. And then, of course, as we've mostly been talking about, connecting to spirit. But you put those three together, whatever your life is about, whatever your goals, accomplishments, what you need to do to live your life, take care of the others in your life, however your life has crafted itself around you, if you can experience positive emotions, have unlimited beliefs, connect to spirit, you will stay healthy. Or if you do get some kind of illness, you'll heal rapidly.
Yeah.
Because you've got everything going for you in that alignment of healing powers within yourself.
Well, and that saying "heal or heal thyself" is really, really true. And in many cases, that's your first objective, is healing yourself, getting better
Yeah.
within yourself. And as I said before, we are an electromagnetic being. We radiate who we are and what we are. And so you among other things will magnetically draw similar people to you, but people will be drawn to you because of that energy that you're exuding. And there was a study done. There was a meditation group in Connecticut someplace who they got together once a week and they meditated for an hour in a I think it was a spiritualist church. And they found that a nursing home right next door had all sorts of improvements on that particular
Uh-huh.
evening at that particular time. And the people weren't sending it anyplace. They were just meditating. But the energy, I guess, sought a place to go. And the people in the nursing home, people got better, people felt better, they were happier, they were more positive. And somebody finally put it together, because this had been going on for a couple of years.
Uh-huh.
And it was amazing, because there was a direct response among dozens of people that benefited from the meditation that group was doing. So that meditation has a power. It is a very powerful tool. And it
Yeah.
can, it can help you to understand your life better, but at the same time, as you get better, everybody around you gets the runoff, so to speak. And it's a better way to go. It's
And it really knows no distance either. At a
no.
deeper level, you look at the quantum level, and the entanglement, the ability for two objects to be in the same state, as they call it, same spin, same whatever. That is a expression of the reality that the same state could go all the way around the world if you have a strong enough source. And so there are deep blessings, that we're all enjoying from high-souled beings everywhere in this world, who, maybe are keeping our world from, tipping into a negative state. So
Yeah.
what I like to emphasize for people is, don't underestimate the power of prayer, the power of positive thinking, the power of positive being, that you have more of an impact on the world around you than you know, but it's huge. And the more you radiate what you would like the world to be, the more the world will conform to what the world can be. We are much more than we know. We're much more powerful beings than we tend to experience.
Well, you know what they say, we only use supposedly 6 to 8% of our brain, and if you then rope in the fact that we have a spirit that's out there too, or in there, or that we can utilize as well, there is a great deal of power there. A long time ago, there were peace chambers, crystal peace chambers, all around the world in every time zone. And on the 11th hour of the 11th month, of the 11th day of the 11th month, people got together in those chambers. And so for an entire 24-hour period, there was a meditation for peace going on around the world, which was really profound. I took part in it a couple of times, and it was a very powerful thing. You could feel energy coming in, and then you could feel that you were taking that energy, building upon it, and sending it out too. And it was a very profound thing. I don't know during that time frame what the world situation was. Had I really been smart, I would have checked out and seen if there was actually that during that time frame, if there was a lull in anger in the world or whatever. But things like that, I would like to see starting again, because they make such a difference. A meditation group is a very special thing to experience as well. And if you aren't an expert meditator doing it and in a group, can give you a boost.
Oh, definitely. Highly recommend meditating with others, especially when you're just getting going. It carries you forward, keeps you focused.
Oh,
and you
yeah.
do get a definite benefit from their vibration while you're trying to tune into your own deeper self.
Yeah, and if you're just starting, you hold hands and you draw energy from the left and you send it out to the right, and you begin to feel the energy moving. And I think that's one thing that convinces some people to keep going, in that they have felt energy. They have felt what it's like
Mm-hmm.
to move and be part of moving energy. And once you've felt that, it's you become an addict almost. It's like it's such a cool feeling. You want to have more and more and more, so you do make the effort to go back into it and try to build it within yourself over time. And it does work. It is addictive, and it's a good addiction.
Well, I always say an addiction is something that you feel physical pain if you don't,
Oh,
uh, keep it up. So it's just a really good thing. It's a really powerful thing that can transform your life. And the more transformed you feel by it, the more you want to do it.
that's true. And if you don't do it, you miss it. There's an
Mm-hmm.
emptiness. I mean, it's all right, maybe addiction wasn't the right word, but you do feel as though it becomes a part of you.
Definitely. The only
And
reason I tossed that in is because years ago, it was a criticism of meditating that it became addictive and people needed to meditate. And I never believed that was true, but it was used by people who thought that meditation was really a bad thing. So I'm always quick to offer the perspective that it's sort of like saying eating is an addiction. I mean,
well, it's not fattening,
breathing is an addiction.
yeah, a big
It
one.
doesn't really make the same sense. as a heroin addict.
No, but you know, it takes you on quite a trip, though.
It's the best
It
there
really
is.
does. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. No, I just noticed our time. I want to thank you so much. I think your book was inspirational, and
Thank you.
I'm really hopeful that people will um, give meditation a chance if they haven't, and if they have sort of fallen away from it, we'll go back to it, because during the times that we're going through now, meditation is a very, very important part of life, and it will keep everybody on a more even keel for sure if they participate in it.
I agree. If everybody in the world meditated, we would have a vastly different world.
We really would. And on that, I thank you so very much for tonight. And I think I've read all your books, so you're going to have to write another one.
Okay, well, don't hold your breath. Nothing in progress at the moment, but I'm sure I'll write another one.
I sure
writing.
hope so. Yeah, clearly. It was fascinating. It was an easy read, and it gave so many positive, supportive thoughts towards how you can help yourself heal yourself, which is magical.
Thank you.
Take care now, and thank you so much again.